The storm rolled over Whisper Creek like a furious stampede, darkening the sky and swallowing the last of the evening sun. Meagan Harper urged her mare forward, the wind whipping her braid against her shoulder, rain soaking through her coat. All she wanted was to cross the river before it rose to high, but the world had other plans. The ferry landing came into view just as thunder cracked overhead. The river churned, brown and violent, slamming against the dock posts. The ferryman, an older man with a weary face, waved both arms as she approached. Creeks flooding fast. He shouted, "You got 30 seconds if you're crossin'." Meagan nodded and guided her horse aboard. Only then did she notice she wasn't alone. A tall man in a worn duster stood near the cabin door, water dripping from his hat. He turned as she stepped on deck, and his eyes storm gray and sharp met hers. "You cuttin' it close," he said. "I could say the same," she replied, breathless. Before either could say more, the ferryman hollered, "Hold on." The boat lurched into the current, fighting its way across the wild river. They'd barely reached the halfway point when a piece of debris slammed into the ferry's side. Wood groaned. The ferryman cursed. The line jerked violently, swinging them toward the opposite bank. "We'll make it," the ferryman shouted, but his voice was swallowed by thunder. Moments later, the ferry crashed against the far shore, hard enough to knock Meagan off her feet. The storm raged. The ferryman scrambled to secure the boat, yelling through the downpour, "Cabin's safer. Get inside." Meagan and the stranger ducked into the one-room ferry cabin as the door slammed shut behind them. Rain hammered the roof like 1,000 hooves. Inside, the space was too small. A narrow cot, a lantern, a shelf of supplies. That was it. The man removed his hat and shook off the water. "Name's Ryder," he offered. "Meagan," she said, pushing wet hair away from her face. "Looks like we're stuck here." "Till the floods settle," Ryder said quietly. "Could be hours. Maybe all night." She swallowed. The cabin suddenly felt even smaller. Outside, the storm tore across the land, fierce and unrelenting. Inside, silence stretched between them, warm and charged, broken only by the flicker of the lantern light. "Guess we better get comfortable," Ryder said. Meagan nodded, though comfort was the last thing she felt. Not with the storm outside. And not with the stranger whose presence stirred something deep inside her. Tonight, the river wasn't the only thing rising. Lightning split the sky, and the cabin trembled with each thunderous boom. Meagan pulled her damp coat tighter around her, though the small lantern gave off enough heat to warm the cramped space. Ryder paced once, testing the sturdiness of the door. "Ferry'll hold, built stronger than it looks," he murmured. "You sound like you've done this before," Meagan said, sitting on an overturned crate. He gave a small shrug. "Seen storms, been stuck places, usually alone." His tone carried a weight she couldn't name. She watched him remove the soaked duster, revealing a simple gray shirt clinging to broad shoulders. Heat crept up her cheeks. He caught her glance and raised an eyebrow. "Cold?" he asked. She cleared her throat. A bit. Without a word, he lifted the blanket off the lone cot and handed it to her. "You take it. What about you?" "I've weathered worse." Thunder cracked again, and Meagan flinched, despite herself. Ryder's gaze softened. "You ain't fond of storms," he observed. "I grew up near the prairie," she admitted. "Storms meant danger. Lost my parents 2-1. Ryder stilled. "I'm sorry. It was a long time ago, but not forgotten." Silence settled between them, heavy but not uncomfortable. Ryder took a seat on the floor against the wall, stretching out his long legs. The lantern cast warm shadows across his face. "Why were you travelin' so late?" he asked. Meagan hesitated. "I'm heading to Sagebrush Bend. Got offered a bookkeeping job at the Mercantile. It's a fresh start." He nodded slowly. "Fresh starts are good." "And you?" she asked. "Where were you headed?" Ryder's jaw tightened. "North. Work. Maybe leave some things behind." "That sounds vague." "That's because it is," he replied, with a half-smile. Meagan found herself smiling back. It surprised her how quickly the tension eased between them. Maybe shared danger did that. Maybe something else entirely. Another boom of thunder made the cabin shudder. The lantern flickered. "You all right?" Ryder asked again. "Yes," she said softly. "It just feels different this time. Being stuck with someone instead of facing it alone." Ryder's eyes held hers. "Not all storms are meant to be faced alone." Her breath caught. Outside, rain continued its furious assault. Inside, the air thickened, warmer than before. Meagan shifted on the crate, pulling the blanket tighter, but the heat she felt had little to do with comfort. "Ryder," she said quietly. "Thank you." "For what?" "For making this less scary." He looked away, but not before she saw something in his expression soften, completely like the storm had smoothed. The edges of a man used to guarding himself. "Storm'll pass," he murmured. "They always do. But nights like this," Meagan said, "they change things." Ryder's gaze returned to her, intense and unreadable. "Yes," he agreed. "They sure do." The lantern sputtered, dimming briefly before steadying again. Meagan drew her knees up beneath the blanket, trying not to stare too obviously at Ryder, as he shifted to sit closer, as if instinct pulled him to her warmth. Or maybe it was the other way around. "Storm's slowing," Ryder said, "but the water won't settle till morning." Meagan nodded. "So we're here for the night." His voice dipped. "Looks that way." She should have been nervous trapped in a tiny cabin with a stranger, but something about Ryder calmed her, made her feel safe, maybe safer than she'd felt in years. He leaned his head back against the wooden wall. "Since we're stuck, we might as well pass the time. Tell me something about yourself. Like anything, honest." She hesitated. "Right, I don't usually trust people quickly." He huffed a quiet laugh. "You trusted me fast enough." "No," she corrected gently. "I just wasn't afraid of you." His expression changed, subtle but undeniable. Something flickered in his eyes. "I won't hurt you," he said, low, steady. "I know." Silence stretched again, warmer than before. Ryder's posture softened, tension easing from his shoulders. "My turn?" he asked. She nodded. He took a slow breath. "I'm leaving more than things behind. I'm leaving a past I'd rather not drag with me." "Trouble?" she asked softly. "Not the kind that hurts folks," he said quickly. "Just mistakes, wrong turns, people judging before they know who you are." Meagan's voice gentled. "Everyone deserves another chance. That's what I'm trying to find." The flicker of vulnerability surprised her. Ryder struck her as carved, stone quiet, solid, unshaken. But grief, regret, longing, they lived in the spaces he didn't talk about. "Thank you for trusting me," she said. He looked at her with a gaze that pinned her in place. "Didn't think I would. But here we are." A gust of wind rattled the cabin. Meagan shifted closer without thinking, and Ryder's hand moved instinctively, steadying her lower back, warm and sure. "Sorry," he murmured. "Don't be." He kept his hand there, neither pulling away nor crossing a line, just grounding her. "You know," Meagan whispered, "I didn't expect anything like this today." "Storms change your path sometimes," Ryder said, voice rough. "Force you to stop running and face whatever you've been avoiding." "What are you avoiding?" she asked. He met her eyes. "Connections." She swallowed. "And now?" He exhaled slowly. "Harder to avoid, with you sitting right there." Her heartbeat thudded loud enough, she worried he could hear it. The air pulsed with unspoken meaning. She tucked a loose strand of hair behind her ear, her fingers trembling slightly. "Ryder," she said, barely above a whisper. "I'm glad it was you. I got stuck with." His voice dropped to a whisper, matching hers. "Me too, Meagan." Outside, the storm raged on. Inside, something far stronger brewed, quiet, certain, unstoppable. The storm softened into a rhythmic patter, but neither Meagan nor Ryder moved. The small ferry cabin felt suspended in time, warm, dim, intimate. The lantern cast slow-moving shadows that danced across Ryder's jaw, highlighting the quiet strength etched into his features. Meagan tucked the blanket around her legs, while Ryder shifted to sit beside her on the wooden crate. His shoulder brushed hers. The contact was accidental, but neither pulled away. "You cold?" he asked softly. "No," she whispered. "Not anymore." Ryder's lips twitched, almost a smile. Good. A few minutes passed, in gentle silence, the kind that feels earned. Meagan felt her heartbeat slow, settling into a calm she hadn't known she needed. "You said you were starting over," Ryder said suddenly. "That takes courage." "Feels more like desperation," she admitted. "I needed to leave everything behind." "What were you running from?" "Expectations. People telling me what my life should be, that I should get married, settle down, live the same life my parents did." She drew in a breath. "But I want something real. Something of my own choosing." Ryder nodded. "Understand that better than you know." She glanced at him. "You do." He held her gaze steadily. "More than I want to admit." For a long moment, they simply looked at each other. The air felt different, heavier, warmer. Then Ryder spoke again, his voice barely above a breath. "You ever meet someone who makes you wonder what your life might have been like if you'd found M sooner?" Meagan's chest tightened. "I think I understand exactly what you mean." He lifted a hand slow, careful as if giving her a chance to pull away. When she didn't, he gently brushed a damp strand of hair behind her ear. His touch was warm, tender, dangerous in a way that didn't frighten her at all. "I don't want to overstep," Ryder said quietly. "You're not," she whispered. He hesitated, searching her face for any sign of uncertainty. There was none, not in her eyes. Not in the steady way. She leaned an inch closer. The ferry groaned under the weight of shifting water, but neither paid attention. Ryder lowered his forehead to hers, a warm, grounding gesture that sent a tremble through Meagan's chest. "Tell me to stop," he murmured. "I won't," she breathed. Outside, the storm rolled away, leaving the night still and trembling with possibility. Ryder cupped her cheek gently, his thumb brushing her skin. Their lips met, not rushed. Not wild, but slow, deliberate. A kiss that felt like the beginning of something neither of them had been brave enough to ask for. Meagan sighed softly against his mouth, her hands lifting to rest on his chest. Ryder deepened the kiss slightly, still tender, still cautious, as though he understood exactly how fragile this moment was. When they finally parted, their foreheads stayed touching. "This night," Ryder whispered, "it's gonna stay with me." "Me too," Meagan replied, breathless. "No matter what tomorrow brings." He smiled then, a real one, warm and unguarded. And as they sat together, wrapped in blanket and lantern light, tomorrow didn't feel nearly as frightening, because the storm outside had passed, and a new one inside had just begun. Dawn crept slowly across Whisper Creek, the storm's fury replaced by soft gold light sliding through the cracks in the cabin walls. Meagan stirred beneath the blanket, blinking awake to find her head resting on Ryder's shoulder. He was already awake, gaze steady on the rising sun. "Morning," he murmured. "Morning," she replied, sitting up slowly. "Looks like the storm finally passed." "Yeah," Ryder said, but there was something in his voice, something quiet, uncertain. Meagan studied him. "Something on your mind?" He hesitated, fingers tapping lightly on his knee. "Sun's up. Water'll be low enough to cross soon." She nodded, though part of her ached at the thought. "I suppose we go our separate ways." "Suppose so," he echoed. But neither moved, neither stood, neither reached for the door. Finally, Meagan took a breath. "Last night, was it just the storm?" Ryder's head snapped up. "No," he said instantly. "Not for me." Relief softened her shoulders. "Good, because it wasn't for me either." Ryder exhaled slowly, the tension slipping from him like a weight he'd carried too long. "I wasn't planning on staying in Sagebrush Bend," he admitted. "But last night made me rethink what I want, and who I could build something with." Her heart beat faster. "Ryder, I'm not asking for promises," he said softly. "Just a chance, if you want it to." Meagan reached out, taking his hand. "I do." Ryder's smile was quiet, but full of something steady, something she trusted, something she wanted. The ferryman knocked on the cabin door. Waters settled. "You two can head out." Ryder stood, helping Meagan to her feet. They stepped outside together, blinking against the bright morning. The once wild river now flowed calm and wide, whispering softly against the banks. "Fresh start?" Ryder asked. Together, this time," Meagan said. They crossed the riverbank side by side, their boots sinking into wet earth, but their steps perfectly in sync. Meagan felt lighter than she had in years. Ryder glanced down at her, that same tender look from last night, still lingering in his eyes. "Think the storm did us a favor," she said. "Best one I've ever been caught in," Ryder replied. As they reached the path leading toward town, Meagan squeezed his hand. "Whatever comes next, we face it together." "Together," he agreed. They walked toward the rising sun, two strangers, no longer strangers, two hearts no longer wandering alone, their connection born from lightning, rain, and truth in the dark. And though Whisper Creek would one day forget the storm that closed its crossing, Meagan and Ryder never would. And if y'all enjoyed this Western love story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more Western stories.